Hello viewers, it's Super GT here. Welcome to round number 1 of the new AOR V8 Supercars Championship, so season number 2. And as you can see, I'm in the Volvo V8 Supercar here, which is changed for everyone really, because everyone has pretty much chosen a different car compared to last season, myself included. So my new teammates for this season are Troy, Rumbum and Regimus, who was actually my teammate last season. We've actually got rid of the Holdens, so there's no Holdens in this championship this season, because they were pretty unbalanced compared to the rest of the cars. They're a bit too slow compared to the others, so we got rid of them, and we have 4 cars per team now instead of 3. Also changed is the amount of races. So last season was 8, this season is 10. We also have the ability to drop a round, so if we miss a round, if we can't attend one round, that'll be your drop round. If not, your worst score will be dropped. This just gives the ability for people to drop a round. You know, not everyone can make every round. We have other commitments in our lives as well, so that's quite a neat touch. And coming through the final turn here, this is my qualifying lap. As you can see, we're only doing 4 laps here. We actually did qualifying twice because of a mix-up with the settings in the lobby. So originally in the first set of qualifying laps I was 6th, and as I crossed the line here I was 6th, but after everyone's crossed the line I was in 7th. So not too bad a lap, could have been a bit better, but you know, not too disappointing with that. In a minute I'll go through my targets for this season, but for the moment we are going to run with the start here. So I'm in 7th, as I just said. Let's get off the line. I'm not going to stall it there, and that's actually one of my targets, to not stall the car in any of the 10 races. I stalled twice last season out of 8 races, so in a quarter of the races I stalled. But let's forget about that for now, because I'm going to go up the inside of Urban's Octane here. He's going to have quite a conservative line on the outside. I'm going to go diving up the inside and get 6th position back. 6th position is where I would have started had the original qualifying gone through, so I was pretty pleased to get back into 6th quite quickly. Now the race settled down into a rhythm quite quickly. We had the usual suspects at the front of the pack. The first 4 drivers in this league are extremely quick, and it's going to be very hard to beat any of them in a clear race without any crashes. But this battle for 5th I think is going to be very good throughout the whole season. I think the battle between myself, Troy, T6 Bullet and FTW Shadowstorm, I think it's going to be quite close between the 4 of us to the end of the season. There's also a lot of other very quick drivers in this league. So Oasis is very quick on his day, Rumbum can be quick, so there's a lot of people who you shouldn't discount, and these people can pose a threat as well. So it's going to be very interesting throughout the season. So as you can see there, the top 4 are pulling away ever so slightly. Troy, he didn't do a huge amount of practice, he was saying, so he was a bit rusty to begin with in this race. We're going to fast forward to halfway around lap 2, and as you can see he goes a little bit too wide there, and I'm going to go up the outside into the next turn. Don't really have the proper line into here, so I'm going to go a little bit wide, graze the wall, and we're going to form a Volvo barrier here to Urban's Octane. There's no way he can get past both of us here. Unfortunately, he tucks into position as we come into the final sector. A tricky sector this. You don't want to touch those big old curbs, the big sausage curbs on the inside there. They will throw you off if you're not careful. And I'm going to look up the inside here. Not a very clean move. I was a little bit impatient, if anything. And on the exit, I don't control my oversteer correctly and ran my teammate a little bit. But I know that he's going to have the inside line here. Give him the run. So he is going to have the inside, and he's going to get this position back. I won't fight this one around the outside. It wasn't a very good move for me at the hairpin on the last lap, so I'm just going to hand that position back and try again later, which is the most sensible thing to do. So my targets for this season, so I just said the first one, which is to not stall in any of the races. That should be quite an easy one. It sounds easy, but I mean I did it twice last season, as I mentioned. The next one is to finish no lower than 7th in any of the races. Also, I want to finish on the podium at least once. I did that last season. hopefully I can do that again. My overall target for the championship is 5th. Hopefully I can finish 5th or better, and hopefully I can finish in the top 4 in qualifying at least once. I want to try and get a bit better on qualifying. That is my weakness. So we're just going to go back to the race quickly, because I'm going to go up the outside here. So Troy has made the same mistake, and instead of going around the outside, I'm going to go for a cutback. And as you can see, I'll get the better momentum, and now the line and the momentum into the next turn. So I've got through into 5th position, and as you can see behind, the race is very, very close. A lot of us are very equal in this lobby. So the top 4 are very close between each other, but just, you know, a couple of seconds ahead, if with a big gap. So it seems to form into 2 very distinct races. The top 4 seem to have their own race miles ahead of everyone else, but then back here is also very close. So we're going to fast forward a bit here to lap 16. I'm going to go a little bit too wide through this turn, and I feel as though I'm going to have to go defensive here to keep my position. Troy looking up the inside, but I'm going to have it covered into the final sector, just forcing him a little bit too wide there, so he can't really do too much into the final couple of corners. And as we come into the final turn, you've got to go very early on the brakes into gear 1 and fight the wheel spin as much as you can on the exit. Normally there's a big concertina effect on that final turn, so you do normally get away, and fortunately you can evade being overtaken into turn 1 just because of that concertina effect, which normally helps. Also, my last target is to never lose a position from my qualifying position, so hopefully in every race I at least go forwards rather than backwards. So here I'm going to make a very big error once again. It became a bit apparent that before these pit stops I was making quite a lot of mistakes, especially around the middle sector. Just grazing curbs and grazing the walls, not quite getting the accelerator down as early as I would have liked. So just about managing to keep my position there. Now as we come around the last corner on lap 22, I'm in 2nd position because of a couple of the leaders were pitting on the previous lap. So that's how I gained a couple of positions there. So I go into the pits pretty much as late as I can at the end of lap 22. Troy follows me in, so we're going to pretty much run with each other for the entire race. And that is Sam just ahead of us there in the white Nissan, who just gone past. Now that's quite significant because he was up with the leaders, but he lost quite a big chunk of time because he had to pit early for damage. So that's going to put his pit strategy out, and hopefully he's going to have to pit twice in this race, which would grant me another position, but I will wait on that later. So we're going to run with the rest of this outlap. So the tyres are cold, but normally if you just be a bit more patient on the throttle, you should be more than okay. That is pretty much the theme of this championship. These cars are very, very sensitive to the throttle, and I noticed that in this Volvo especially. You have to be very patient on the throttle. Don't mash it down too quickly, otherwise you will be going sideways coming out of the bends, and you will lose a lot of time. You have to be very, very, very regimented on that throttle, keeping the car as straight as possible on the exit for best drive out of the turns. So this was a decent outlap until I hit that curb on the inside. I did mention that earlier. You don't want to touch those sausage curbs because they will flip your car over if you're not careful, and actually lose about half a second probably just on that one turn alone from going over those curbs. So not the best end to the lap there. It was a good start to the lap, and I've actually developed a small gap over Troy. Now we're going to move to lap 26. This is Urban's Octane, who was actually behind me at the start of the race, moving out of the way nicely there. That's how you should be a back marker. That is the best way to do it. And again here, widowed graph moving out of the way nicely. So the back markers were actually very good in this race for me, in my experience. Didn't have any trouble with them at all. Very sensible, moving out of the way very early. So we're going to move to lap 34. And once again, once the stints settled down, I started to make a lot of mistakes again. So you can see they're going wide into the final sector, losing half a second or so to Troy. I did develop a decent gap over Troy of about 500 feet at one point. There goes a back marker into the wall, and actually when he rejoins I think he held up Troy a little bit, which helped me get away by about 100 feet or so more than I would have done. So yeah, I did develop a decent gap at one point, but once again my mistakes began to creep in, That clip there, this clip here is me going past Sam, who was in the pit, so I'm up into 4th position now. So if I can finish 4th, that is more than good, because the top 4 in this league are extremely quick. So to gain positions out of them is a big achievement. Go a little bit too wide on the roundabout. I made that mistake quite a few times towards the end of the race, which granted Troy quite a lot of time against me. Troy was actually very quick through that roundabout section towards the end of the race, probably a bit quicker than me. That's the main reason why he was gaining. And actually on lap 39, as we can see here, so only 4.5 laps left, he actually goes into the back of me ever so slightly there. So that is a reminder of how close he was getting. It wasn't going to be very comfortable for me to the end. I had to fight it until the end of the race. Now we're going to run from here to the end of the race. So this is halfway through lap 42. Troy actually gets bad momentum through that turn, and he's actually going to lose a position to Shadow Demon. So Shadow Demon was gaining very nicely throughout the race. I thought it was going to be very comfortable between me and Troy. I thought we had a very big gap behind. I obviously wasn't paying too much attention, but then all of a sudden Shadow Demon seemed to come out of nowhere with extreme pace. He is actually a very fast driver, and on his day he can be one of the quickest in this league. And he's actually going to come through here, and it's going to set up quite a nerve-wracking final lap, because I have a back marker in front of me here, and it's quite nerve-wracking having a back marker in front of you who you don't know what they're going to do. At the same time, you've got a very fast charging driver behind you who's trying to catch up with you. So you're kind of sandwiched in the middle, and you're not really focusing properly. So you can see there, make a mistake. Fortunately, the back marker does let me go through. So to repeat again, I didn't really have any trouble with the back markers. Go into the wall slightly there. So you can see I'm getting a little bit nervous on this final lap, because Shadow Demon was very fast. He actually seemed to come out of nowhere at all. Breaking on 300 metres board there as we enter turn number 6, I believe, and through here into turn number 8. Yes, I skipped down to turn 7, but if you actually look on a map of this track, it's actually very weird. It skips a corner there for some reason. So through here, I've actually not got a very big gap now to Shadow Demon. He's actually lurking very closely, so it's going to be very interesting into the final sector. So in we go. I go a little bit wide of the apex, and Shadow Demon is certainly going to gain out of that. Now I make the decision here. I'm going to look behind, and I'm going to cover the inside so he doesn't go for a lunge. Just park it on the apex so he can't do anything. Goes into the back of me. There's nowhere he could have gone, so I did the right thing just by parking it on the apex. Nothing he could do. I'm going to keep 4th position for a decent finish. So that's a very pleasing result actually, and so far I've kept to all of my targets. Obviously the podium one, you know, I could still work on, and top 4 in qualifying, I could still get those, but finishing 7th or better, no stalls, and not losing position from qualifying, those ones are still on. I've still kept to those targets. So that was the result there. We're going to go back to that in just a moment. So that was actually a very pleasing race, and I think it's going to be a very good championship, this one. So there's the results once again. KPTK92 winning once again in the Ford. A couple of guys in the Mercedes in 2nd and 3rd there. So the Mercedes is actually a very good car. A lot of people last season were saying it's not balanced with the rest of the cars. People were saying it's slower, but I genuinely think it was a balanced car. It is a balanced car. It's a very good car. We just got to put it in the right hands. I guess my hands aren't the right ones. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. For those of you who don't know, this is going to be a video coming out every Friday from now on for the next 10 weeks, because it's a 10-round championship. So for those of you who haven't subscribed, you can do so now. These races will run every Friday. I'll also be doing a lot of other Forza content. So I hope you have enjoyed this one. Hit the like button if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and I shall see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.